right, so our next guest, inshallah, is our inspiring guest, and that's Brother Saif Youssef, and he's going to be talking about faith behind the camera. So Saif is an enthusiastic community activist who ignites change and inspires youth to achieve their full potential. He's a Saudi Arabian-born, Bahraini-raised Egyptian-Canadian who has used his diverse background to inspire his unique work in his filmmaking, directing, and producing. After excelling at the Toronto Film School for Film Production, Saif Youssef majored in communications and multimedia at McMaster University, and his work has been viewed by millions globally, screened worldwide, and is loved by all. His latest documentary, Sauda, an Orphan Story, raised over $2 million, building over 400 wells, 20 schools, 15 medical centers, a state-of-the-art sustainable orphanage, and sponsored hundreds of orphans in Mali and Ethiopia, mashallah. Saif runs a nonprofit organization which strives to instill the importance of humanity by invoking feelings of empathy in audiences towards others. He's an advisor for Mina Toronto and hopes to inspire all aspiring creatives to pursue their passions and thrive in the fields they wish to embark on. Brother Saif, whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much. I'd like to start off with a video first. Bismillah.
Are you ready? Do you think you will ultimately be happy? I saw older people and they were crying and saying, why didn't I come when I was younger? Why didn't I come when I was younger? At least I would have been able-bodied and ask Allah in strength.
Feeling like just a student, like I'm learning from all of you.
You gotta realize that, you're more than just that. When I came here, when I saw Muslims that are here, all coming for one reason, it's a beautiful thing.
This is the fundamental basis, the minimum we need to be doing.
It's not just that spiritual high or that feeling that you get.
This feeling of, I'm just like everybody. It's like you've been waiting for something your whole life, and you're like, it's not going to live up to that. In the past 10 years of my life, I've been praying for this one direction. And you're like, it's gotta be amazing. And then you go there and you're like, oh, this is why.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu wasalam ala Mustafa Sayyidina Muhammad as-Sadiq al-Amin, thumma amma ba'd. I shot that video. That's the intro for a documentary I did about Umrah, I think 2 years ago now. And now we're in talks with CBC to get them to buy it and to broadcast it. And I wanted to start with that to kind of show what the point of all this is. I'm doing content, and I strive to follow a very simple statement or a very simple phrase in life, which comes from the Quran. And very simply, it says, وَدْعُ إِلَى سَبِيلِ رَبِّكَ بِالْحِكْمَةِ وَالْمَوْعِظَةِ الْحَسَنَةِ, and preach or invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and beautiful preaching and beautiful teachings. And from a very young age, that verse was what was instilled in me by my parents and by my mom specifically. She'd read this verse to us and be like, it's not an option. It's not what, if you want to, or preach if you want to, or if you can, or if you will. No, this is something that is a request, a command to everybody. It's a straight up command: preach and invite to the way of your Lord with hikmah, with wisdom and beautiful teachings. It's something that all of us have to strive to do. And how my father pitched into this was he would teach us and he'd tell us that you can do that through whatever it is that you are already doing. It's a matter of picking something in life, choosing what you want to do and striving to be the best at it, to excel at it to a point where every action that you do within that is a response to that verse, is a response to you being commanded to speak, to preach and to tell people about and to share this beautiful deen that we have. When I first started, it was in high school. I was in grade 10. My grandfather, Allah yarhamu, bought me a camera. And my closest friend had recently gone back from Gaza. And he comes and he's like, Saif, listen, man, I don't feel good. I saw so much over there. I know, there's all these stories and there's all these things that need to be said. And I want to say it, but I don't know how, and I don't know what I need to do. And I was thinking to myself, well, hey, I just got a camera, so let's make videos. You can speak and I'll record and we'll put it on, and khalas, we're doing it for the sake of just getting that story across. We made the most horrendous t-shirts that said, terrorism, I'm Muslim, I'm against it. And whenever he'd sit down or whenever he'd record a video, he'd wear that shirt. And when he sits down, it crumbles up. So it says terrorism, I'm Muslim, and the rest doesn't show. So but it was very, very pure in the sense where it was just, hey, we have something we want to share. We need to share it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that we have to. So what's to stop us? And subhanAllah, 4 years later, that same friend who now has millions, who had millions on Facebook and hundreds of thousands of followers, he calls me up one day. He moved to Chicago for med school. So he calls me up one day and he's like, hey, listen, I want to make a difference. I want to do something. I found this guy who's ready to fund, who's ready to fund us so that we can do a project and make something happen, do something different. I was like, all right, cool. What you got in mind? He's like, I want to build a village. I want to find the place that needs it the most. I want to go shoot a documentary, fundraise, and get it done. I'm like, okay, cool. How exactly? So he tells me that he was sitting in the masjid one day and he was talking to the guy next to him about this. He just kind of brought it up. He's like, yeah, I really want to do this. It's a dream of mine right now. So this brother that was next to him, mashallah, is pretty well off. So he goes to him and he tells him, okay, let's do it. And what he does is he had 3 cars at the time. He takes 2 of those cars and he sells them and he gives us that money and he's like, take this money, fund your project, shoot your documentary, and let's get this done. So 2 weeks after that, we were on a plane to Mali. We were talking with locals, we were shooting videos, we were shooting documentaries. Some of the worst stuff I've ever done in my life. This was right out of high school. And now when I look at that footage, I'm like, hey. But subhanAllah, we put it and we had the purest of intentions to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless our work and to bless the people that we wanted to help through what we were doing. And that Ramadan alone, I think we raised $1 million and built, instead of, subhanAllah, initially, I remember this very, very vividly. We were sitting in a meeting and we're like, how much do we want to fundraise? What's our goal? And one of the brothers were like, oh, let's do 30,000. I look at them, I'm like, what do you mean 30,000? 30,000 who? 30,000, we don't even need to do any khalas, just ask some uncles. I was like, no, let's do $1 million. And wallahi, the look they gave me was one of, what are you even talking about? who are you? Who are we? And why would anybody trust us with this money? But you know, let's do it. And then at the end, we settled for 300,000. That was our goal. Alhamdulillah, we tripled it. We made $1 million. And instead of building one village, we built 3 villages. And I know in the bio we said that we built 400 wells. Alhamdulillah, I think last year we topped 1,000 wells. We built so many wells in Mali that they asked us, they told us that there's no more, like, khalas, we go build wells in other places now. And alhamdulillah, that's just one very, very small, I guess, fruit of the work, or fruit of that verse that was instilled in me in such a young age. Just go out and do it. Don't think about it. Don't let yourself be taken back and let down and worried and nervous by the outcome, or by what might happen, or what might not happen, or who might say this or who might say that. But as long as you know, and as long as you believe very firmly about what you have in your hand and what you believe in and what your morals and what your grounds and what your deen says, if you believe in that, if you know that that's something that's worthy of being shared, then you share it and you say it in everything that you do, from what you're doing to how you're doing to what you're preaching for and to what you're asking to be done. When all those align, then wallahi, your supporter and your ally is no one but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And who else? What other supporter, what other ally would you ever need? See, somebody's asking what the organization is called. It's called Pious Projects of America. Yeah, alhamdulillah. And then SubhanAllah. So we kept doing this, and then every year they'd ask me to go back and to do this documentary. And this last year, I was in a little bit of a dilemma where the dates of the trip collided with my mother's birthday, and I knew that this is something that I couldn't say no to, but at the same time, I knew that this is something that couldn't really say yes to it. I went back and forth, and then by the end of it, I decided to go. And alhamdulillah, by the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I was able to build my mother a well and record the opening, where we got the entire town village to sing and dance, and all of them collectively came and stood together and made a huge dua for her. And I recorded that and I sent it to her on the day of her birthday. And it was like, nothing else matters. And then subhanAllah, she took that video and she used it to fundraise for a school for orphans for her mother. And it's just really beautiful to see that something that starts off with such pure intentions to share something or to do something that's good trickles in ways that you can't really fathom and you can't really understand. But okay, so that's a very direct response to an action. You see something that you want to change, you do a video, you do whatever, you fundraise, you do something to figure that action out or to solve that problem. What about things that aren't that? And what about things that are just in our daily lives? And that's where that video that I showed you at the beginning was. I have my foundation and my morale tied very, very strongly and rooted very heavily to who I am and to my religion and to my people. Whenever I do something, it's always inspired by a verse from the Quran. It's always something that you read and it's like, oh, that's sick. Okay, yalla, now let's take that and work with that and really master this and try to spread the idea behind this. And subhanAllah, that even comes from the Sahaba. The Sahaba were known to, to take 10 verses at a time, to take those 10 verses. They didn't focus on ikhtiming the Quran and going through, or some of them, they didn't focus on going through the entire thing, but they take chunks of verses, try to master that, try to understand that, and then move on to the next. So trying to learn from that, you take, whenever I'm struck with something, it's like, okay, yalla, let's use this to spread, to share a message and to do something built around that. And that's where the whole Umrah thing came from. So the idea behind it was people need to see the value of it. People need to see what's happening. People need to see who we are and what we're doing. And although at the beginning it was just for us and it was just to kind of shoot and to document it and maybe to convince Muslims to come to the next Umrah trip, it very, very quickly transformed to, subhanAllah, everything we see here is a miracle. Let's use this to show what it really is. And the conversation with CBC was something that came out of the blue. I was speaking to a friend. I shared the video with them and they took it and they flew with it. They sent it to a colleague that they had that had a connection with CBC, and next thing I knew, it's doing it. Alhamdulillah, it's something I want to really stress, that when you're doing something, be it whatever it is, to do it with the right intention and with the idea always in the back of your mind that you want to share something, you want to give something back, however it may be, it'll turn into that. Whether when we look into the Quran, we see all these verses about the point of life or the purpose of living. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says He created into man and female and nations and tribes. Why? So that you may know one another. What does that mean? What's that knowing one another? That knowing one another is the core of it is we as humans live for relationships. We live so that we can feed off of each other. We live so that we can take and so that we can give. So once we use that as our founding or our driving foundation in life, with everything that we do, we see value, and we're able to give value, to get value in everything that that we do and we touch. I hope there was some benefit to this talk. I know it wasn't the most structured, but I just wanted to share some thoughts, and barakallah feekum. Jazakumullah khair.
Jazakallah khairan, Brother Saif. So I do have a question for you. I'm assuming, obviously, with your field and what you do, that you guys face a lot of difficulties or conflicts or just like tough times or negotiating, whatever it is. What do you specifically do, and then bringing your deen into it as well, when you're faced with these type of difficulties?
I think you nailed it with that. Being in this field, I'm faced, Allah knows, with so many little dilemmas, with what content to make, who to shoot, who to discuss, what story to share, what message to give. Should I use music? Should I not? Should I have, what kind of friends should I get in the videos? Who shouldn't I? Should I share this on this platform or not on this platform? There's so many different dilemmas that come to it, but I'm not, how can people, I'm not going to make any fatwas here, obviously, anything, but I know personally, I believe very much, there's a poem where the poet says, علم العليم وعقل العاقل اختلف من ذا الذي فيه محرة الشرف. He says the knowledge of the knowledgeable and the wisdom of the wise had a fight. They had a little disagreement. Who of them won this disagreement? And it goes back and forth, and the first, the knowledge says, oh, well, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions me in the Quran, and then the wise says, oh, well, Allah in the Quran uses me to tell people how to be, and it goes back and forth, and then at the end, knowledge kind of, he says, فعلم العلم أن العقل سيده فعلم العقل أن العلم سيده. So knowledge found out that or wisdom found out that knowledge is his master, and he sat back and he allowed him to do his thing. And I like to, a lot of the times I go back to this because it's so easy to start to think that your wisdom and your mind is all-knowing and all-knowing of what you need to be doing and what you should and shouldn't do. But at the end of the day, when I reassess it and when I look at it, I see that every time I followed my wisdom and my mind, more often than not, especially if it was conflicting with knowledge that I had, it ended up very badly. So whenever I'm faced with something like that, it usually comes down to the drawing board, to look at it with my mind aside, with my heart aside, paper and pencil. This is the good that can come out of it. This is the bad that I'm risking. What am I willing to compromise? What am I not willing to compromise? And that's how I go through it, based off of the foundation and the knowledge that I see in front of me, based off of the outcome that I want to achieve. The book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, one of the main habits that he speaks about is working with the end in mind. And working with the end in mind means you know where you want to achieve. Are you able to get there? What's the best path to get there? If the path to get there isn't what's taking you there, then don't do it. And so many times I'd be in a situation where I have some amazing opportunity to shoot with some amazing people, but it would conflict with the drawing board. And
yeah, I'm trying to find the picture.
It doesn't really show.
Oh, this one maybe.
sorry. Okay. Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
Okay, Jazakallah khairan. Somebody's asking, can you just repeat the verse that you learned from a young age again?
وادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. Oh, that camera just died. Yes.
Okay, excellent. And if you can just answer one more question, how can people use media for good? Because we do live in a time of like a lot of information, a lot of fitna out there. What are your recommendations for the youth to, stay away from the fitna, use it for a positive goal?
I sat once for a workshop by a brother named Naif Ahmed, Naif something. He is the author of a comic series called The 99. And he taught me a very, very valuable lesson where the essence of it was everything that you're sharing, all the stories that we have, any piece of information that you want to transform into a piece of media that you put on your social media or you put on your blog or you share with your friends or your family, anything that you want to share is based around stories. And all these stories, subhanAllah, we can really use our deen to derive the best, and to learn and to know what's best and what's not, what's good media and what's bad media. His entire comic series or his entire workshop was about superheroes, and every sort of hero has to go through an entire hero cycle. The person isn't loved. He's going through a struggle. He sees a potential. He sees an opportunity. He goes for it. He fails, and then he gets some sort of gift from something or from somebody, and then he uses that gift and he tries to do something, but he's not able to. And then a mentor comes, and that mentor teaches him how to use the gift, and then he gets to he's able to succeed. And then just as he's succeeding, he fails a little bit, and then at the break at the end, something happens, and he loses his all his drive, and he's about to give up, and he's at a low point of life, and then revelation comes to him, and then he gets this newfound power, and that power shoots him up to be able to achieve whatever it is that he wanted to achieve. And that's the basic cycle of a hero, or the hero story. And when we look at all superheroes, all of their stories are stories of the prophets. If you think about it in a sense where you break it down to the context and the idea behind it, it's stories, and it's biblical and Quranic and Abrahamic stories that are perfect in essence. SubhanAllah, we have the best gift ever. We have the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is perfect. We have the most perfect stories in the world, or create, and they're not created because it's the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we're able to take that story and to take that content that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives and present it in our way, sharing what we want to share, whew, you're able to do so much. Think of this. Who is it? Superman. What happened with Superman? He was on his planet, and then stuff wasn't working out, so he was shipped and he was shot to a different planet. And then over there, he found a family, took care of him, raised him, and then but it turns out that family were the people that that had issues with the other ones. And Musa alayhi salam, what was his thing? He was he couldn't live with his family, so his mother put him in a ship and sent him to a different planet, and sent him to a different family, and that family took him and raised him, and well, they weren't the best for him, and then he grew to be able to, like, think of Sayyidina Muhammad alayhi salam. What was his thing? He was in isolation, he was thinking, he was talking, he was reflecting, and then the wahi, the angel descended on him from above and then gave him his superpowers, gave him his Quran, and he was able to use that Quran to do all. Spider-Man, that's exactly the story. He's there, he's a loner. What happens? The spider comes from above and gives him a superpower, and then he's able to use his. Everything in life is all media, all stories, everything that we're able to present can be presented via stories, and all these stories can have morals and can have lessons. It's how we use those and what lessons and what morals we want to share based off of what decisions and what compromises we have to do that affect the media that we're putting. It's basic communication. Right now, I have something that I want to share. My ability to share it and what I'm sharing comes back to my purpose and what I'm trying to share. So if it's good, then what's going to come out is good, and if it's bad, what's going to come out is bad. And that's it.
All right, Jazakallah khairan, brother Saif. Really appreciate it.